Hi, this is Helen Tabby, back again to talk about the so-called negative cards. Today, let's talk about the Nine of Swords. You might notice that quite a lot of the cards in this series are from the suit of swords. This is generally seen as the more difficult side of the minor arcana. But what does this card usually talk about? The keywords are often anxiety, rumination, and even the dark night of the soul. And what we can see in the Thoth deck is that there's a word cruelty at the bottom. But this is more about internal cruelty, internal suffering, rather than inflicting cruelty on others. So as not to unnerve querents, a lot of Thoth readers will actually cut off the bottom of their cards. So they can really throw people off. But let's look at some different perspectives of the Nine of Swords. First, is anxiety always a bad thing? Anxiety and depression in the short term actually serve an important function. They tell us that something is wrong in our life. Now, when we have the Nine of Swords come up in a reading, it can be a warning to face up to our fears, to stop living on autopilot. This can give us an opportunity to let the light back in. Maybe things that we've been hiding in the dark recesses of our minds. And it's the light that chases out the darkness. Another perspective is, especially for people who've experienced anxiety and depression, this card can represent compassion. So say, for example, you have a spread that asks, what is someone's strengths? And the Nine of Swords comes up. Does it mean that person is really good at being anxious? No, it's more likely that it means that the person has an acute awareness of what suffering is, what people go through, and that they want to help other people through their own dark nights. Think of religious historical figures like the Buddha or Jesus. They had a deep understanding of the human condition and the ways in which we suffer when we don't have to. They taught compassion as a way to guide us out of our suffering, like the Buddhism's philosophy of non-attachment. Now, from the imagery in the Rider-Waite-Smith card, Pamela Colman-Smith has given us some ideas on how we can cope with these dark nights that the Nine of Swords can talk about. So first, you might notice that we don't see the ends of any of the swords. The message there is, there's no point. Here we can use some kind of Stoic philosophy, where, is what you're anxious about something that you can change? If so, do that. If not, there's no point worrying. There is no point. The other part is the blanket that the figure has covering them. It has astrological symbols and roses on it. The roses are seen to represent vitality and embody the heart. And the astrological symbols talk about the embrace of the eternal cosmos. This blanket is thought of as a blanket in the kind of figurative and literal sense. If you were waking up in the middle of the night, it would be your first thing that you would turn to for comfort. So the comfort is there. It's not completely a lonely and isolating card. So when we wake up from the dark night, we can see what is real, where we have been overthinking, and what we need to do to come back to a place of clarity and calm. This card talks about something temporary, because the night is always darkest before the dawn, but the dawn always comes every day.